Yeah, so Lynx has been in most of the studios that I've ever worked out of. There's always that white-faced Aurora 16, I think it was, and I just remember seeing it everywhere I went. All the studios, everybody was talking about how clean and transparent and fat and open the sound was, and I've always been enamored by it. And I was at one of the AES shows, and they had the new Lynx N, and I was in the market for a new interface, and that's when I found out about all the configurable cards that you could switch out on them. And that's a big thing. Is like, when you're buying a big interface, it's like if you buy something that has a Thunderbolt 2 connector, and then later they come out with Thunderbolt 3, it's kind of a pain because you got to buy a whole new interface. So when I saw the N and the new front panel and the metering, I was looking for a new like high-end interface that I could use for programming and playback. And yeah, so at AES I kind of fell in love with it, and now I'm fully on board. Cool. Yeah. So I work with a company called Vibe Child, and we do programming and playback for a ton of artists. And then beyond that, I also do a lot of studio recording and studio mixing. So some of our past clients have been Bryson Tiller to K Michelle to J-Lo and Vogue. And we have pretty much like every interface available, and we'll bring them out on different clients. When we started using the Lynx Aurora ends, that's when they started actually making it into the field. So obviously like Post was like one of the bigger artists that we actually took them out into the live arena with. My train of thought is everything needs to be transparent and sound the same way it sounded in the studio. So I wanted to find an interface that would help me get from point A to point B without changing changing in between. Like I've been working with a lot of independent artists like Rory. I've been working a lot on his album. Of course, anything that's like a broadcast or TV performance or something that I'm mixing, I'll be mixing on the Aurora N. But primarily, like as far as like live clients that are using the Lynx Aurora N, it's Post. As far as like the studio and live broadcast performances, I would say like at some point every artist that Vibe Child touring supports has gone through a Lynx N at some point. I wanted to I had these HD 650 Sennheiser headphones, and I've been looking at different headphone amps. I have this like headphone amp that I've been carrying around for a while. So I questioned, I was like, is there a better headphone amp? Is there something better? Like what's out there? So I went around and I was plugging in and trying out all the headphone amps. And that's because that's a big thing for me. When I'm touring, I'm always listening on in-ears, and I'm always listening on headphones. And so they're all different impedance, all the different headphones, the amount of power that you need to drive them. So everything starts in the studio. I need a reference in the studio that I can use my headphones and be on site and have that same headphone mix. So yeah, it'll start in the studio. Start working with the Lynx, like the Lynx N. I might be working with stems, or I might be actually tracking. And I started off with a Thunderbolt 2 card, and moved from the studio after like prepping music to actually bringing them out on the road with me. I liked them so much that I put a couple in a live rack, and I was actually traveling with them. I wanted the same exact sound. I didn't want it to change. I was really getting into Dante networking, and that's when I started thinking about, well, what if I switch these cards out? Like, what other things could I do? And that's when I switched the cards out for Dante, and I was able to actually plug right in with plug right into a Digico console or any other mixing console that we're working with. And then also, continuing on from that, I started using Dante in the studio and for actually, doing live sessions over the internet. Using Dante has really helped as well. And then now I'm talking to Albert about putting a Thunderbolt 3 card in, and then for also just network studios, networked home studios. Everyone's doing these Airbnb studios, and you bring in a couple Lynx Aurora ends, hook them all up Dante. You're able to really share that whole network. So there's a couple different ways that I've used the Lynx, and I'm always like, brainstorming new ideas. Like they just added the new ADAT card. They just added, which is pretty incredible. And I really kind of fallen in love with the mic pre's too. If I'm in a situation where I got to cut something, for a show, or if I'm in a situation where I'm in a, just a bedroom studio or wherever I'm at, like it's just the lowest noise, fattest, open sounding pre's. And I got 4 of them, so I feel like I just kind of covet them because, I just know whatever I put through them is going to sound fat and big.
Looking for your favorite things, shaking up.
Yeah, so I started off as just a producer, and eventually found it hard to find really good engineers. I started working with this artist named Rory, and he's an amazing kid from Atlanta. I like to say he's like Jimi Hendrix meets Lenny Kravitz. I ended up mixing a record with him, and it did really well. And it took him on a journey to where he started touring more. And I was working with there was a label at the time, and we were trying to figure out how to take the records from the studio and get them ready for the stage. And that led me into the world of live sound. Playback is just, it's kind of like a virtual band for the artist. And today it's or glorified DJ, but it's grown a lot more because the demand for shows is always changing. Instead of creating these spaces, for a mix to live in, now we're mixing into a live arena. And I remember like RIP Alvin Spice, he was an engineer that taught me pretty much everything I knew about audio. And he was working on Keith Sweat's album one time, and I was printing stems for that for him. Sometimes when you're performing live, like let's say you're in a stadium, that kick drum is going to have all the stadium verb. So if you're mixing in the studio, you're trying to create that space. But when you're performing, you're actually trying to work within that space. So you might need a dry kick instead of something that's wet. Through Vibe Child, I had the opportunity to work with a ton of different artists, and then I got into building systems where I could operate the video wall and do more of the creative content side of it as well. And then that led me to work on bigger and bigger jobs, and that kind of brought me full circle to today. When I went around AES and I was testing out a lot of different headphone amps, I realized very quickly that they're not all created alike. I think the Lynx Aurora sounds better. I think it sounds like more open and fatter and bigger, and not only that, like it translates into just the 1 and 2 out. There's something. As soon as I plugged it up the first time, I just felt like it was like going to a mastering studio. I know it's a mastering grade interface, but I just felt like the sound is right in front of me, and the noise floor like dropped, and and I feel the same way when I plug in a pair of headphones onto it. I would say like everything that from the AES IO to the analog inputs and outputs, like everything sounds fat, everything sounds big. There's a couple other guys I had at AES that I tour with, and everybody walked over there and plugged in their headphones, and there's something different. There's some juice that's coming from the Lynx Aurora end that I haven't heard in any other interface.